Art block is something every single artist has or is going to have to face. And it can come from several different sources, like being frustrated with your current skill level or the overwhelming pressure to be successful. But for me, a lot of the times my own art block is caused by boredom and just having no idea what to draw, which has only gotten worse now that I'm making YouTube videos in which I draw. There's been times where I wish that I could have the same energy for art I had when I was a kid. When I was a kid, doing art, all the possibilities were endless, and more importantly, I was having fun. So I thought to myself, what better way to try and recapture the mind of a child artist than by using an art program made for kids. Kid Pix. According to my super in-depth and laborious research on it, Kid Pix via its Wikipedia article, Kid Pix was originally created in 1989 by Craig Hickman after he was inspired to make a simple drawing program for kids to use after seeing his 3-year-old son struggle to use Mac Paint. Which is so sweet. In the good 30 years this program has been around, there's been multiple versions with multiple developers, though in this video I'll be using Kid Pix Deluxe 4 from 2004, and a surprise version I'm saving for later. I never used Kid Pix as a kid. It just never was on any of the computers I had access to growing up. I know I became aware of it, at least the Deluxe 4 version at some point, because sometime in 2020, I made this monstrosity on an old laptop of mine. I don't recall ever using the program between then and now, and I was worried about getting a copy again because I didn't have it on my current laptop. But I was able to get in contact with my good friend Monkey D. Luffy, and he gifted me a copy, which was really sweet of him. He's such a nice young man. Now, to use this wonderful gift my friend Luffy has given me, let's get on to the program. So I think what I'm going to do first here is just goof around and just kind of experiment with the program here and see what we can do. As you can see, I quickly became enamored with this silly little art program. All the funny little sound effects were causing the biggest grin on my face. I was playing around with all of the in-program assets, such as the backgrounds and the text, the animations, the sticker tools, and ended up making this thing. I then went on to play around with some of the other features before getting a bit overwhelmed and taking a break from it all. But I did vow to myself to keep drawing things in this program until I drew something I was proud of. I drew cartoon characters at a cafe, an ancient Greek couple staring at each other, anime girl dating sim scene. I even played around with the in-program assets some more and made this.
Why do they call it oven? You oven the cold food, out hot, eat the food. Please just kill me, flunky.
It was during this creative spree that a realization dawned on me. Kid Pix Deluxe 4 is kinda like Clip Studio Paint. I mean, obviously they are both art programs, but hear me out. Both have a fun variety of brushes. Both come with a lot of assets like backgrounds and characters, which you can use to make whatever with. But it was this connection that emboldened me to try one more time to draw something I could be proud of in Kid Pix Deluxe 4. And I decided to draw something well within my comfort zone, a portrait of a woman. But I had another reason for this. I'm not sure why. I think maybe I did something wrong when setting the program up. But when I would open the program and draw, Kid Pix looked like this. Thankfully, I've been able to zoom in on the footage for the sake of the video. But I wanted to show you all a snippet of my internal suffering I went through using this program. But yeah, the idea was that by drawing something smaller like a head, it would be easier for me to draw in such a small space as opposed to something bigger like a full human body. So I wouldn't have to scrunch it up for it to fit in the tiny canvas space. And I think I had the right idea, because for drawing this, I think I did good. I really like it. I was using different brushes, I was using the color picker, things were just going smoothly. And I even used some of the animated paint brushes at the end to add this kind of shoujo filter effect. The whole drawing is giving psychedelic shoujo vibes, and I'm here for it. All in all, Kid Pix Deluxe 4 is extremely fun, and I will absolutely be going back to this program in the future to draw funny, silly things. And while all of this is well and good, you may be thinking to yourself, golly gee, this Kid Pix stuff here sure looks cool, but I don't have a pirate friend to get me copies of Kid Pix. And what if I told you you don't have to have a pirate friend because, yes, that's right, there is a free in-web browser version of Kid Pix you can use. And that's because this version is in the public domain. It's a public domain version, which was published in 1989. Isn't that neat? Sure, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that Deluxe 4 has, but it's just as fun, and just like Deluxe 4, I actually have some experience using this program previously. Here's some art I drew a few years back in 2021, and here's this one piece of Farcell ship art I did earlier this year. I think because I am a bit more familiar with this version, I just went straight in with drawing and illustration as opposed to playing around with the program for a little bit. And I decided to draw Hatsune Miku for this as kind of a homage to the Miku piece I drew back in 2021. Sadly, this time, there are no chickens. It's just a simple close-up on her face with her doing a peace sign. But before I got to that point, I first started with the background because just like older versions of Microsoft Paint and Kid Pix Deluxe 4, this version has no layers. So if I wanted a background, I needed to go ahead and do that first before I had a foreground and details to worry about not covering up if I tried to go back and add a background later. At first, I tried doing a gradient with the pencil brushes. There's a solid option for the pencils, but there's also these cross-hatching variants. I don't know what else to refer to them as, but when overlaid or even by themselves, they have this really cool look to them. I wasn't feeling it though, and I quickly went to just doing whatever with some of the other brushes till I got a result I liked. Actually drawing Miku was a bit hard because if I made a mistake, there would not be an easy way for me to fix it. That undo button, it only works once, and with the complicated background I set up, I would risk making things look off depending on how I covered up / redrew over my mistakes. Her left shoulder, the arm that's going up, that area gave me some trouble. But I was able to use her hair, thankfully, to work around it. Like, I would erase and redraw the part of the arm I didn't like with her hair color, since that would be behind her arm, and then redraw the arm. And thankfully, I was mostly able to avoid messing with the background patterns. But there is a few places where I did end up doing so. Hopefully, it isn't too noticeable. Honestly, I don't have much to say about this piece. Nothing too notable happened. I do find it interesting that compared to this Miku, the one in 2021 is very rectangular. Like, you can definitely see, like, the roundification of Miku compared between the two pieces. It's definitely interesting to see how your art can evolve over the years.
Flore venezolano. Y ahora vamos a despedir para todos los hermanos. Queda muy poco tiempo. Caramba, déjame. Entonces, Flore venezolano, tu primera cada semana. Para todos.
Now that I have spent some time in both programs, I made the choice to wrap this video up by following Bob Ross episodes and seeing how close I could get to his iconic paintings using Kid Pix. I decided that between the two I would start this challenge off in Deluxe 4, it being a newer version with more tools available such as the color picker and the more fancy brushes. I thought would be very useful to mimic the blending techniques of the wet on wet oil paintings that Bob Ross did. And here we are starting the first painting. And for this one I followed Season 15, Episode 4, Peaceful Reflections. I don't have the episode on screen because I fear the almighty copyright. So what I did was, as I was drawing this, I had the episode playing on my phone. So I would watch it on my phone and then you draw it on the computer. I worded that so good. So you can see, starting off here, the colors that I'm using are very saturated, and I'm having a hard time blending colors together. My brain was not with me when I started this, because I started drawing this with the marker tool, which isn't the best for blending in Kid Pix 4, and it took me a bit longer than it should have for me to go, oh, I should be using the paintbrush for this. And even then, you can kind of see me struggle for a bit with the color picker tool, trying to blend these colors together. At one point, I get distracted by the various brushes under the paintbrush tool before getting back to the task at hand. And then the most frustrating, or at least it was at the time, thing happened. Kid Pix Deluxe 4 crashed on me. I did not save the painting, so I had to open the program again and start all over. Thankfully, I wasn't too far in, and it actually ended up being a blessing in disguise, because not only was the second attempt a lot better on my end with the colors I was using, as you can tell they're nowhere near as saturated, but I was able to remember the mixing tool, which was a massive help in blending those colors. Of course, this didn't solve all my problems. For one thing, in the actual episode, the canvas Bob Ross was working on was 18 by 24 inches, meaning it was vertical, taller than it is wide. Well, in Kid Pix, at least to my understanding, you are stuck with a horizontal canvas, wider than it is tall. So my composition was going to be a bit off compared to the original. Another thing is that I had no pen pressure. Thankfully, the ability to blend easily nullified this obstacle, but it was a little difficult at times to mimic the light touches of a brush or the sharp, hard scraping effect of a knife, both techniques Bob Ross would use for his paintings. But I was able to trust the process enough where I got it done. Far from perfect, I definitely regret putting those random little branches in the foreground. But I like the outcome, and it was a lot of fun getting to draw things like the mountain and the snow on top of it. I definitely had a Danny DeVito, I get it moment. Like, I understand what you're all about, Mr. Bob Ross. I understand your wizardry now. Now, about the painting, in Kid Pix, the public domain version at kidpix.app, I don't want to talk about it because I struggled with it and I don't really like it because just as I hypothesized earlier, it was a lot harder to get a blended, painterly, wet-on-wet look. You can get to it using all of the cross-hatch brushes in a smart way, which I kind of did, but I kind of didn't. I feel like if I spent more time and actually used my brain, I could get there. But I don't have that. I don't have a smart brain, so I didn't get there. And there is like a mixer brush, but it like warps the image. So that, and combined with the fact that there's no color picker, I couldn't just blend the colors and then color pick to create a gradient. I had to use my brain more. But as we established already, I don't really have that. So in the words of Bob Ross himself, this painting is just full of happy little accidents. Maybe it's actually more like one joyous, large mishap. But it is what it is. For this painting, though, you can clearly see I'm not following the same episode as I was for the one in Deluxe 4. This one is Season 8, Episode 3, Warm Winter Day. And I specifically chose this one because it was also horizontal in its layout. So that definitely made things easier, and I think because of that, the composition on this one is a lot stronger as opposed to the last one. I kind of wish I played more with the paintbrush tools in this one as well. You can kind of see me use this circle swirl paintbrush tool to draw the trees and brushes in the forefront. I definitely want to go back on my own time and experiment with it more. Maybe I can get a better looking painting. Who knows? Overall, I don't really like the colors on this one, but I like the composition more, which is the inverse of the first one I did in Deluxe 4, which is I like the colors, don't like the composition. I feel like it's a bit squished. Regardless of the outcome for either of them, the journey to get there was definitely entertaining. I would take both of those journeys again. I had a lot of fun. In conclusion, I may not be a kid ever again because I'm an adult and time flows forwards only. But getting to mess around and experiment with my art in ways I wouldn't normally do, it really took me back to an earlier point in my art journey. That feeling of being a novice, being bad. When I was a kid, that was a terrifying feeling. But now it was freeing. And it has made me excited to experiment more with my art in the future. Hopefully, me goofing around in this video inspired you creatively. And if not, I hope at least you got some entertainment from it. Now, excuse me, I have to go on the run because I just got word that the Marines found out that I'm friends with Luffy and now they want to kidnap me and throw me in prison. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to jail. So stay safe, be kind to one another, and bye-bye.